the stage, Mark.
Okay, stand by. All right, take it away, Teresa.
My name is Teresa Okokin. I'm originally from Wisconsin, and I live in Chelsea, Massachusetts, which is just outside of Boston. Currently, I am a writer and a storyteller, and my day job is with an executive search firm.
I am so very pleased to bring up our first teller of the evening.
My name is Wes Hazard. I'm originally from Stoughton, Massachusetts. I currently live in New York City, Brooklyn to be specific. And I am a storyteller, a stand-up comic, a writer, and all-around arts enthusiast.
My favorite part is that I get to hear all different kinds of stories, and I do really enjoy that.
And she says, I want to live with my heart on my sleeve. Yes, let's promise each other that we'll do that.
You have alopecia, she says. I'm gonna give you some Rogaine, put it on your bald spot, it'll all come back. All I heard was, if you do this, it's gonna come back. You're not gonna be the weird girl with a bald spot anymore.
Sometimes we have storytellers that have told stories a bunch of times and they're like getting to do the thing that they love. And sometimes we have first-time storytellers who are like experiencing this new thing for the first time. And our job here as hosts is to like constantly be witness to somebody experiencing a new joy or like practicing the joy that they have in their life. And like that's just kind of an honor. What about you?
Similar, I would say that my favorite part about hosting Stories from the Stage is getting to hear stories from people I just never would otherwise.
I wish I had had this book to read when I was a kid growing up. Perhaps my big revelation as an artist would have come sooner if only I had seen myself and my family represented in books.
I am a professional entertainer. I spent my entire adult life in theaters, bars, shows. And so it's very common for me to, be hearing storytelling or comedy constantly. What Stories from the Stage allows for is it's a platform where people who have had amazing experiences, deep insights, but who are never, or would not generally have gone to a venue to do, they come here. And so I get an access to a much more frequently like raw and personal and just very, very unique kind of story, which I'm very thankful for.
It's like ordinary everyday life in a really special way. Probably different teachers at different times in my life. Certainly though, my fashion role model is the cast of Clueless, I would say. Super influential for me.
I'm the only child of a single mom, so it's like, I'd see my dad on the weekends, but for most of my childhood, it's me and this one other person in this house. And so how could she not be? In terms of people more my age, I have to say my elementary school best friend, a kid named Nick Yates, he was just the smartest, most erudite, always head of the class, A's, and went on to be probably the most effective teacher that Baltimore Public Schools has ever had. So it's just like...
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and so I consider myself very lucky to have known him then and to still know him now.
I think my favorite part of shoot day is after interviews are done, there's like this, 30-ish minute moment where all of the tellers are in the green room, and I go back to the green room and they have this sort of nervous and excited energy. It's sort of like the calm before the storm. I really like that moment. What's your favorite moment?
For me, the live experience, talking to, looking an audience in the eyes and creating something that will never be created again is always my favorite part.
Was I gonna have to do the middle school teacher over here? I heard some snickering over here, all right? I know it's hard.
There was a story, I think it was in season 1. The story was about he made the decision to journal or catalog what he did for every minute of the day.
At that moment, I just did the unthinkable. I pulled out my phone and I deleted the app. I also deleted all the data that I've got, and these that I would have cried losing them, I deleted all of them. And that moment just felt like liberation. It felt like I have built my own prison. I have faithfully imprisoned myself in this thing. And then finally I broke free. And it was amazing.
I'm frequently thinking of like, how am I spending my time? And like, that story like reminds me to like, also just like live, just like be alive and be paying attention to things. Yeah, and he ended the story by saying, "Thank you for your time," which I thought was so clever, and I think about it all the time.
The most memorable moment, like the line that really got me, he was trying out for the Olympics, so an Olympic ski jumper, and had a, in trials, had a particularly traumatic accident.
And as I was laying there curled up in the snow, I had the most intense and severe sharp pain just jolting through my back. And to think that just 1 year prior to this moment, I was representing the United States as a ski jumper in the 2014 Olympic Games in Sochi, Russia.
So as you can imagine, it was a very powerful, affecting story, but a specific line, he was talking about the day of the accident where, he'd gone up, crashed, he's lying there, in shock, obviously, and he says to the EMT as they're coming up to him, it's like, "Can you take my boots off, please?" And the EMT just looked at him and said, like, "Your boots are off." And I was like, the what that means and like the resonance in there was just like, I will not forget that line. Easily the most memorable single line that I've thought of in the show.
On purpose and not on purpose, storytelling has become really central in my life. I was raised by 2 immigrants. My dad is from Nigeria and my mom is from Ghana, and telling a story is like definitely how my dad taught a lesson, that it would just sort of like go on for a very long time and then we would eventually get to the lesson. And I think that became part of who I am, that telling a story is like how I understand the world. As a kid, everyone called me Ini. It's a nickname for my middle name, Ini Obang, which is an Ibibio name given to me by my father, who was born and raised in Nigeria. My name means God's clock or God's time, and it's a name that I have always been incredibly proud of. So on my first day of kindergarten, I was excited to announce my name as Ini to my kindergarten teacher. She looked my mother in the eye and then asked, "Does she have a real name, an American name that we can call her?" The name that my mother offered was Teresa, because it is my first name. In kindergarten, I learned my ABCs, my 1, 2, 3s, and I learned to respond when someone called me the name Teresa, which is to say that as the only Black kid in the room in kindergarten, I learned to assimilate, because I was raised in an almost entirely white community and all I ever wanted was to fit in. And it would be years, decades even, before I would finally realize that fitting in means allowing myself to be my truest sense of self.
I'm just curious, if you could only do one for the rest of time, write or share stories on a stage, which one would you pick?
That's like, do you want hard-shelled tacos or soft-shelled tacos for the rest of your life? That's a choice I'm not gonna make. Absolutely, no, you can't back me into that corner.
Fair enough.
I want all the tacos, and I want storytelling and writing.
Fair enough, fair enough. It's gotta be funny. I have never, I don't believe, told a story that did not have at least one laugh in it. And I think some might look at me and say, well, you've been very fortunate to not have those. And I'm like, I don't know, give me anything. There will be something in there, because everything is funny on the cosmic level.
What's the best possible scenario on Jeopardy, right? You go on, you win 5, 10, 15 games, you become a minor national celebrity. You go on Fallon, you get to retire and just write trivia books for the rest of your life. That's fantastic, all right? What's the worst case scenario? You don't have enough money to compete in final, and then I gotta retire to a monastery in shame for the rest of my life, right? Not an option, okay?
find the thing that you are most scared of sharing. That's going to be generally the most interesting thing. The thing that like would horrify you to, you know, tell in front of your mom or, you know, coworkers or something like that. Not everything needs to be on stage, but I would say that definitely explore that area because that is going to be, I think, the most fruitful.
Believe that your story matters. Believe that you are interesting. Believe that you have something that's like worth saying and that other people want to hear. I think that's what storytellers and personal essayists, like, that's the biggest hurdle. That's the first hurdle is like just you need like a blind confidence that people want to hear your story.